This is an official statement to the office and administration of Governor Andrew Beshear in response to the current Kentucky Senate Bill 8, or SB8, from the Revolutionary Black Panther Party and the Kentucky Alliance Against Racial and Political Repression. This letter is dated February 20th, 2020. To the largest urban school district in Kentucky, SB8 is either a blatant attack on the JCPS black, brown, and poor white population, or a salient inconsideration and disregard of this same demographic in your inaugural promise of an Education First budget. When your administration began, you stated that you intended to change the tone in Frankfort. And seeing as how Kentucky legislation is known for its historically backward and slow nature in general, personally, I was ecstatic to see what potential value your administration could bring to a historically biased and backward state legislation. Now, Senate Bill 8 is morally decadent, fiscally irresponsible, counterproductive, and impractical to Kentucky education, administration, and legislation. Let's talk numbers, Governor. 1.7 million students attend schools in the U.S. with police officers and no counselors. Yet, 45% of at-risk youth and children in our public schools are diagnosed with some sort of mental illness or emotional dysfunction that affects their academic behaviors of success. And let's not forget that 98% of mass school shootings in Kentucky have taken place in rural counties, yet this bill will include the biggest urban school district in the state. Herein lies the disconnect, Governor. Senate Bill 8 is an attempt at a blanket solution that would inherently cause more issues and budget constraints in the long run than the projected effectiveness of its proposed origin. At best, this bill is incomplete. There are prudent amendments that can be included in this regulation, and we urge you to veto Senate Bill 8 so that our Kentucky legislators can regroup and find better solutions, not blanket ones. As representatives, you, they, and I have a duty to listen and concern ourselves with all constituent affairs. We wouldn't even be contacting you about this bill if it wasn't for the influx of calls we've received at the Kentucky Alliance from fear of parents and how this bill will affect their kids. As responsible representatives, it is our duty to address these concerns in an understanding, practical, and expeditious manner. The fact that a seemingly bipartisan bill is nothing more than a cover for a contemporary institutional racist practice used to exploit poor white, black, and brown students into an accelerated pipeline from school to prison. It only serves as a potential stain on your administration rather than the victory your bipartisan colleagues portray. Now, I mentioned this bill being falsely bipartisan because the demographic of representatives that sponsor this bill all represent the majority of representation in the General Assembly. And if changing the tone in Frankfort involves starting a non-existent trend in Kentucky politics to actually listen to minority concerns, then you, Mr. Governor, in fact will be changing the tone rather than succumbing to historical complacency and counter-progressive nature of our state's General Assembly. Even with proposed localized regulations, SB8 in essence is a band-aid to rural school counties with students that have mental illness issues, not criminal behavior ones. In short, Mr. Governor, to the students that make up 65% or more of urban school districts in Kentucky affected by gun violence in some way before the age of 18, because of their environment, there are only two places that are safe spaces for these children: home and school. At any other moment in their environment, gun violence is closer than a Walmart. The so-called bipartisan reps that sponsored this bill, as biased as they are, cannot understand when you invite guns into the educational environment in any capacity, you not only trigger deep traumatic experiences by this large population of students, but you also take away one of the last two safe places for these urban youth and children. And frankly, though I hope Frankfort and the community get to see eye to eye in this situation, regardless of your decision, the alliance of organizations, churches, and community leaders and members that signed on to this petition will diligently continue to pursue the investment of our children inside the Kentucky educational system, as well as explore immediate outside options. I'm saying your administration's legacy will not be tarnished with the first mandated officer in school shooting of a young black child, because we, the community, will immediately pull our children out of all state-run educational facilities, along with the $250 to $400 million in budget that our students receive from federal funding. Should this matter come to a point of total student evacuation, we would also be seeking legal counsel towards ramifications for the historical and consistent mental, emotional, and psychological trauma received by our children from the persistent institutional racist nature of the Kentucky Educational Department. Mr. Governor, you have the power to do your part to change the historically counter-progressive nature of Kentucky politics. Not just for your administration's legacy, but for the lives of these young men and women who can continue to call home and school safe spaces. We urge your speedy consideration